This video is going to be something a little bit different from what you're used to, due to the recent proposal from David Schwartz regarding Federated Side Chains on the XRP Ledger. I felt compelled to make this video on XRP. This is certainly a popular topic recently, but I feel many people have failed to see the forest through the trees. This announcement, if brought to fruition, will multiply the scope of use cases for the XRP Ledger. But I want to keep things simple. By the end of this video, you will come to realize how Ripple are positioning XRP to become the most liquid asset on the planet. This may be a long one, so get yourself comfortable. Let's jump in. So before we get started on reading this article, I want to take a step back. Let's go back to 2018, where David Schwartz said the following tweet: "If banks respond by building walled gardens, we'll position XRP to bridge across those walled gardens. If they want one big walled garden to take over, they'll have to be as open as we are." So, Ripple's recent philosophy with the whole private ledger is to allow these banks to use the private ledger and see the benefits, but at the same time, allow them to easily connect to the XRP ledger when necessary, almost at the flick of a switch, if you will. Now to a more recent tweet. XRP can transact on private ledgers just as non-XRP transacts on the XRP ledger. This gives issuers who are not ready to transact on a public blockchain to still operate with XRP. Now, what I think David is referring to here is the fact that central banks don't want their transactions to be public. There's going to be central banks all over the globe which want to transact in private, and then when it comes to settle, they could connect to the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger has been running smoothly for 8+ years with billions of dollars at stake. The CBDC Private Ledger ensures transaction privacy and security controls combined with the reliability and payment proficiency of the XRP ledger. The best of both worlds. And I think Jack the Rippler here has absolutely nailed it. So on March the 3rd, we got this news that Ripple is piloting a private version of the open source public XRP ledger that allows central banks to create and manage a digital currency, enabling global interoperability. So all of these things are extremely exciting. I'm going to tie them all together. But first, we're going to watch a few videos. Starting with David Schwartz, Ripple CTO.
So now, can the Ripple network sustain other tokens other than just XRP? And are there any plans for such?
The XRP Ledger has support for what we call issued assets. They were initially used for stablecoins. It has a decentralized exchange. Amazingly, all of this was working in 2012. This was all early stuff, and most of this actually predates the creation of the company Ripple. So you can go on the ledger and you can represent things like dollars or Bitcoin or Ethereum, and then you can trade those assets in a few seconds, at this very low fee.
So we know other assets can be issued on the XRP ledger, such as various currencies, for example. In fact, there are already multiple currencies trading on the XRP Ledger decentralized exchange right now. What I think David's motivation is for this particular proposal is to allow issued currencies to have their own specific side chains. And all of these will interoperate and interconnect with the most liquid asset of them all, the granddaddy XRP Ledger decentralized exchange. This will allow central banks to operate in a private manner with their own special configurations, and when it comes to settle between, let's say, cross borders, entities of different CBDCs from different side chains will be able to swap using the XRP Ledger itself. Let's move to the next video.
A hybrid public ledger approach uses a public ledger for settlement, but doesn't attempt to send every transaction to the public ledger. You could imagine if you were doing high traffic volumes, hundreds of transactions per second or more, you probably don't want to try to push every single one of those transactions down to a public ledger. In a private ledger approach, it's like a blockchain, but it's not decentralized. So here, central banks or asset issuers would operate their own private ledgers that would give some of the benefits of public ledgers, but not all of them, but avoiding some of the disadvantages of public ledgers. So what is the advantages of...
So that sounds to me like what is happening with these side chains. Central banks can have their own private ledgers as a federated side chain, and then, as David described, the hybrid public ledger, it could then settle on the public ledger, which is the XRP ledger, which will be the most liquid of them all. So I'd like to show you this last video from Dilip Rao, who was the global head of infrastructure and innovation for Ripple. Listen to how he talks about the use case for XRP. This is for big money. It was never designed to be used for small payments.
Or buying coffee. So our positioning for XRP is really as a wholesale digital asset, and we're licensed to sell that out of a fund that we have in New York as exactly that, for that purpose.
So you're saying, I mean, it's mostly used by banks, but is it only for banks now? Or do you think there will be some other use cases?
So I think the starting point was certainly this primary use case for cross-border transactions. Now, we've gone there because obviously there's big money there, and therefore you want to solve big problems. Well. So we have many, now a lot of MSBs or PSBs, beginning to sign up to Ripple because they compete with banks. So we are not saying that this is only for banks or only for somebody else, but really, ultimately, all of these financial institutions have to transact with each other, and they'll do that only if they know and trust each other. So from that point of view, joining the club means that we're creating a RippleNet club, which, for the first time, in 40 years, there's a new network coming together of both banks and financial institutions who want to use this technology, but also what we call the Ripple Rulebook, to be able to transact comfortably with each other. So they will use XRP, we hope. Initially, MSBs are using the XRP, and they're using pilots, for example, people like MoneyGram, Qualix in US, Mexico, etc. But ultimately, once banks get more comfortable, the volatility comes down, some of the big money comes into it, the regulators get more comfortable with the use of this as a digital asset. So our general view to regulators is, don't just think about this class as being good or bad. You have to figure out, what is being done with it. What is the use case? And certain use cases perhaps are not good, and you want to sort of regulate those much more strongly. Other use cases probably are very benign, and it should be encouraged because it allows the intrinsic cost structure of banking to be more efficient.
So we can hear from Dilip that the use case is targeted at big banks and small to medium enterprises. This is another reason why the XRP Ledger will basically be the hub of liquidity for the world. So that brings me on to the proposal itself. Now, I would like you to just imagine that this is targeted towards CBDCs, because that is what I believe the motivation for Ripple is to implement this. Now, although it's advantageous for the XRP Ledger to have these sidechains which can be modified in other ways, for example with smart contracts, this is not what Ripple are aiming to do. So always have their motivation in mind when reading this particular article. Let's jump in. Over the last 9 years, the XRP community have committed to advancing the innovation and forward progress of the XRP Ledger to dramatically increase its decentralization, performance, and feature set. Among the most requested features we have heard from developers and contributors to the XRP Ledger is smart contract capabilities, brought about by the exponential growth of decentralized finance, or DeFi as it's commonly known. In fact, the number of DeFi developers has grown 110% since 2019, and that number is projected to grow well beyond 2021. However, we at Ripple have long advocated against features that would compromise the XRP Ledger's highly efficient focus on payments. So the XRP Ledger is very lightweight, meaning it's not very complicated. It does one job and it does it very well. If you end up bloating the XRP Ledger with this additional functionality, for example smart contracts, it will inherently make it more complex, which will make it slower. And the Federated Side Chains is David's proposal of how to resolve this. Today, we are proposing a strategy that enables the best of both worlds. Federated Side Chains on the XRP Ledger. This will enable developers to implement features such as native smart contracts that interoperate seamlessly with XRP and the XRP Ledger, while also allowing the XRP Ledger to maintain its existing lean and efficient feature set. Federated Side Chains allow for experimentation and specialization so developers can enjoy the power of the XRP Ledger on a sidechain that acts as its own blockchain. For example, imagine a potential to branch out into new functionality by slimming down the XRP Ledger's features to a specific subset for a particular use case, or even creating a private, parallel network with a permissioned blockchain. Federated sidechains could very well make this reality. How it works. In order to understand the vision of the federated sidechains, it is first important to define a federator, a piece of software that connects to at least two instances of the XRP Ledger software. The federator software means anyone who wanted could run a sidechain to the XRP Ledger. On one side, the federator is connected to the XRP Ledger mainnet, and on the other side, it connects to one or more sidechains. The federator would be run only by parties who operate validators on at least one sidechain. So here's something that I really want to bring to your attention, and I think it's a very powerful image. So we have the XRP Ledger here, the central hub, and we have the sidechains. Now, picture these as CBDCs from different governments from around the world. Now, I would like to bring your attention to a very profound picture regarding XRP and the vision of Ripple. This is the current system where we have multiple currencies trading with each other. It makes it very complicated and very illiquid. If you have two illiquid currencies that may not necessarily transact with each other, you can find yourself paying for the friction. Now, this is Ripple's proposed solution, and which is what they're implementing with their suite of products. XRP as the central ledger, the hub, if you will, and all of these different currencies feeding into it to supply it with liquidity, meaning cheap rates for everyone. Now, if you can think back to the earlier picture, where we had the XRP Ledger in the middle, and then we had the federated sidechains on the side, now you can sort of see how this diagram could represent David's vision of the XRP Ledger and how it will pool together liquidity from multiple CBDCs. Let's continue. The vision is that each sidechain would function as its own blockchain. They have their own ledger and transactions, just as the XRP Ledger does. What makes them sidechains is the federation system, which allows XRP and issued tokens to move from one chain to another, issued tokens potentially being CBDCs. Federated sidechains could use XRP as their primary asset. In that case, people could use the federation system to move XRP from the XRP Ledger to the sidechain. Then, the moved XRP could be used on the sidechain just as it is on the main chain. Anyone could move XRP from either chain to another. Alternatively, sidechains could use their own native asset, so people with accounts on both ledgers could move XRP to and from the issued asset on the sidechain. I'm not going to read all of this article because I'm aware that many people have already read through this before. I'm just going to highlight you some of the important bits. If the sidechain creates a different native asset, that asset can be issued on the XRP Ledger mainnet by the sidechain's mainnet account. Now, this could also be a CBDC, and you're sort of starting to build up the picture here. These sidechains could have their own native asset. For example, the Bank of England could have the Great British Pound, CBDC, as their native asset. In comparison, the Federal Reserve may have a US dollars CBDC currency. Let's look at some of the advantages. With this software, anyone can choose to run a sidechain to the XRP Ledger. For developers, it unlocks new use cases like native, decentralized finance capabilities and smart contracts. Developers can also build and launch blockchain features that are baked into these sidechains. In the future, successful features could even be ported over to the XRP Ledger mainnet. So again, this is something that is very exciting, but what I believe is not the focus of Ripple. What they're saying here is, these sidechains could almost be a test net, allowing developers to create new functionality and sort of test the limits of the XRP Ledger. And if successful, these changes can be merged in with the XRP Ledger itself. The developers managing a sidechain also have the freedom to decide how their chain works. They could choose their own validators on their sidechain and could change the system's rules as they need. Now, this is another thing for CBDCs. Imagine if you're a government and you want no fees, for example. This could work by making a duplication of the XRP Ledger and changing some of the parameters. So let's continue. For example, a sidechain could operate without transaction fees or reserve requirements. It could operate without its own copy of the XRP Ledger's decentralized exchange, or it could add new transaction types and functionality for storing large chunks of data on the ledger. The possibilities are limitless. A sidechain can be strictly permissioned or nearly permissionless, centralized or mostly decentralized. You could even run a sidechain temporarily while letting it manage real value and gracefully shut it down after it has served its purpose. Now this is what I think is very exciting too: horizontal scaling. Sidechains can have their own fee system, their own reserve system, and their own transaction capacity. Someone who wants to create a system with thousands of users that can hold XRP has a better option than being the custodian or putting all the accounts on the XRP Ledger directly. So I'm just going to redirect you to another comment from this article, from the very same article by Matt Hamilton, who I think absolutely nails it and says, this enables a bank to run a private network of rippled instances to issue their CBDC on and then connect it to the main public XRP Ledger. And this is the point that I'm trying to emphasize. Although Ripple have talked about many of the smart contract functionalities what this could eventually bring, I think that their motivation is to enable CBDCs to be built in private in these walled gardens, as David Schwartz would often say, with then the ability to plug in seamlessly to the XRP Ledger to unlock the liquidity there. So that's it, guys. That's why I think the XRP Ledger is growing from strength to strength. The ledger is not designed for small payments. It's very capable of small payments, but that is not what Ripple is specifically choosing to achieve. Now, don't get me wrong, I welcome all other people building on top of the XRP Ledger. But in reality, the value of the protocol comes from how much liquidity it has, because more liquidity means less friction with payments. And on this scale, on the global scale of multiple currencies, that is what's going to set XRP apart from the rest. And if you're holding it, you're in a very advantageous position. Again, something a little bit different this time, but if you stayed till the end, thank you very much, and I hope you got a new perspective on this new proposal of the Federated Side Chains. Don't worry, next time we'll be back with some more Flare Network content, so stay tuned. Thanks again all for watching, and until next time, I'm out.